Good afternoon and welcome to the Asian Midday Market Watch. Our guest today is Kelvin Wong, Market Strategist at CMC Markets. Kelvin, thanks for coming in again.
Hey, hi Brian, good to see you.
Now, before we get your insights, let's take a look and see how markets are performing and also how cryptocurrencies are performing. Now, we start with cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin has rallied 11.52% and is now at 36,269.5. Ethereum is up 4.56% to 2,566.72. Now, if we look at markets around the region, we start with the SGX, which is at 3,169.31. It's up 0.5%. Bursa Malaysia is at 1,582.65. It's up 0.07%. Across the region, then we have the Nikkei, which is at 28,943.72. It's up 0.29%. The Shanghai Composite is at 3,620.72. It's up 0.85%. The Hang Seng is at 28,828.94. It's up 0.3%. The ASX 200 is at 7,304.4. It's up 0.47%. Rounding up the numbers, we've got the Kospi, which is at 3,233.33, and it's up 0.5%. Kelvin, Asia Pacific stocks all up higher ahead of the US inflation release. What are your thoughts?
Yes. Yeah, because we are talking about it definitely is a key economic data to watch. Why? Because it actually one of these economic drivers or data that will actually determine whether the Fed, who we look at the last couple of months, they are still insist that the current heightened inflationary pressure is still temporary. That means we're talking about it will not spill over downstream to the consumer like you and I. So definitely it's a key data to watch. So if you look at last month's data, the previous April release, is at 3% year on year, which is the highest annual increase since January 1996. So for this time round, the bar has set higher for the consensus for the month of May, which is going to be released out later in the US time zone today, will be at 3.4%. But so what's interesting over here is that even though the bar is set higher for this US core CPI data for May, but other tradable financial instruments like the US 10-year Treasury yield does not seem to buy this in a heightened downstream consumer inflationary.
Yeah, in fact, because the 10-year bond yield slipped below the 1.5% mark yesterday.
Yes. So if you look at another what you call it interrelated what you call it markets, which is the gold futures, COMEX, trade on COMEX. So if you start to see, in fact, since the US 10-year Treasury yield hitting the 30th of March high, which is at 1.77%. So yesterday it dipped down lower to actually kind of retest this 3 months kind of a lower limit of this range that's in place since March, which is around this So it's actually around this this low of this 3 month. But actually, what's interesting over here is that the dip in this 10-year US Treasury actually coincide with the recent medium-term bottom of gold futures, which is at 1,677. So if you look at the situation over here, right, given that if this ongoing 10-year US Treasury yield continue to be soft, I reckon that it should actually support a further firmer gold prices going into the couple of weeks ahead with a multi-week time frame. So for me as for us as a kind of, if I talk about a short-term trading perspective, for tonight, I'll be looking at key levels on this gold, which is let me open up the chart of gold for you all to see. Okay, so I'll be looking at this 1,884, 1,870 for the key short-term support for gold, and you saw the 20-day moving average. So as long as this support zone holds, I still do reckon that the momentum for gold is still expected to be kind of intact for a slow upward movement up towards the next resistance at 1966.
Now, how about the ECB policy decision, which is coming out later today? What are market expectations, and how do you think this is going to impact Asia?
Okay, For ECB, right, if you look at the Eurozone core inflation data, is actually relatively significantly much lower compared to US. So if you look at the flash data for May in Eurozone that was released last week, which is the core inflation data, pretty much similar to the core CPI data in US that we are looking at tonight, they're actually coming at 0.9% year on year versus US one, which is about above 2%. So if you look at the inflation situation in Europe, right, it seems to be pretty much subdued at this point in time. So I still do expect ECB to actually maintain their current, the current what I call accommodative monetary policy stance, because inflation doesn't seem to be at risk in Eurozone at this moment in time. So in terms of the markets that's directly impacted on a kind of a more dovish ECB will definitely be the European equities. So maybe let me touch a bit of the European equities first. So the kind of one of the beneficiary will be the DAX. So if you look at the DAX, which is the key benchmark, we call it German stock market index, it actually traded to an all-time high last week. Okay, versus the US one, which is talk about the S&P, the Dow Jones, and even the Nasdaq 100, they are still hovering below the current all-time high, which was printed in somewhere around mid-May. All right. So, but however, last week the German DAX already surpassed its all-time high. So I'm looking at a key support level on the medium term, which is at 15,090. So as long as this level hold, we may see the German DAX to make another all-time high. Then thereafter, potentially hitting the next resistance zone at 16,070/16,200. So definitely, with one of the key central banks, developed central bank that is still having this dovish monetary policy stance, it should actually kind of a further support this ongoing medium-term uptrend in key Asia stock market in general.
Now, final question, Kelvin, what's your outlook for ASEAN markets?
Okay, for ASEAN market, still from a medium-term perspective, I'm still bullish. So I'm still expecting the medium-term uptrend for ASEAN stock market to remain intact for now.
Now, Kelvin, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you, Brian.
Now, we've been speaking to Kelvin Wong, market strategist at CMC Market on BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch. I'm Brian Fernandez. Please check out our LinkedIn and our Facebook pages, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please subscribe and like our various platforms. Thank you very much for tuning in.